One, two, three.
Hello everyone. Today I am going to complete G protein coupled receptor. Basically this topic is a part of signal transduction pathway. I have already covered 4 modules related to the signal transduction pathway, and this is the last part or last module of the G protein coupled receptor. See, in G protein coupled receptor I have already gone through definitions. After the completion of the definition and some important terminology, let us see the detail of G protein coupled receptor. In GPCR, we have to study several fragments or segments. The segment is any type of receptors are located on membrane. So first we have to study about the receptors, that is location of receptor as well as structure of receptor. The second segment we will study is G protein. Since it is G protein coupled receptor, it means the receptor which is already coupled with G protein, it means the second segment is G protein. And third part which we have to study is transduction. So basically transduction means the pathway is related with the G protein coupled receptor. It means there are several type of transduction. It means conveying of masses occurs. So I will give some examples of GPCR as well as their different type of responses in the body. So first let us start with the GPCR. As we already explained, we have gone through the GPCR. G protein coupled receptor are located on the cell membrane because they are going to bind to the hydrophilic type of molecule. This GPCR is considered as GP. Here G protein is considered as GTP binding protein. So G protein is nothing, it's a protein which is basically binded with two different molecules that I will explain later on, but this receptor is already binded with the G protein, that's why it is known as G protein coupled receptor. As I have already shown in the diagram, you can see G protein coupled receptor is a 7 transmembrane receptors. It means you can observe the 7 transmembrane binding region. The N-terminal region is present outside the cell, that is cytoplasmic domain. They are present in the extracellular area, and C terminal is present in the cytoplasmic domain. So in this receptor you will observe two domain, N and C terminal. N is present outside the area which I have shown here, and C is present in the inside. Since it is known as 7 transmembrane, you can observe and count there are 7 transmembrane. It means 7 times this membrane is crossed through the receptors or plasma membrane. And one particular region you can observe in the cytoplasmic region, there is a segment which can be bind to the G protein. It means this domain is responsible to bind with the G protein. So overall this complete package is, it's a GPCR which are having 7 passes or 7 transmembrane area. It has intracellular domain where G protein can bind. Now come to the types of or classes of receptor. There are 6 different classes of receptors of G protein on the basis of sequence homology and functional similarity. Among these 6, rhodopsin is one of the very common one. Second is serpentine receptor. Third is pheromone receptor, which is also known as metabotropic glutamate. Fourth is fungal mating pheromones. Fifth is cyclic AMP, and sixth is smooth end receptors. Among the 6 different type of receptor, the most common receptor and well known is cyclic AMP receptors. This 6 receptor can be studied as class 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or it can be studied somewhere as class A, class B, class C, class D, class C, and class F. 2 receptors are very common among these 6. One is cyclic AMP and second is rhodopsin type of receptor. Today we are going to study transduction pathway related to all these 2 different type of receptors. See, there are different type of physiological role of G protein coupled receptor. 3 famous one is visual, second is smell, third is taste. So for the smell, olfactory word are used. So this pathway is related to the olfaction. This pathway is related to the taste. For taste, which is also known as gustatory type of sense, and third is visual sense. These are the 3 very common examples of G protein coupled receptor. Besides this, mood regulation, behavioral control, then regulation of immune system activity, inflammation, then nervous system transmission, then growth and metastasis, as well as in the endocrine system, especially peptide and amino acid derivatives or derivative hormone are related to the G protein coupled receptors. Now see one by one. I have already gone through G protein coupled receptors. So receptor part is over. Now come to G protein. G protein, as I already told you, it is G because it has GTPase activity. What is this GTPase activity? When any protein are able to exchange GDP with the GTP, they are known as GTPase activity. So basically, this G protein are normally binded with the GDP. When once they bind to the GDP, it is considered as inactive. But since they have GTPase activity, at the certain time period, GDP will be replaced by GTP. So it means if this receptor, or we can say this G protein, will bind it with the GTP, it means the active GTP, on that time G protein becomes activated. So overall, in the normal case, G protein coupled receptor are normally inactive. Once ligand will bind to the receptor, receptor becomes activated. After activation of receptor, now the G protein, which is generally present with the or binded with the GDP, are able to exchange, and due to exchange this GDP exchange with the GTP, now G protein is binded with the GTP and G protein is activated. After activation, they are responsible for the further activity. It means further transduction pathway that I will explain in the further slide today only. So overall, the concluding remark is G protein are having two states. One is on, other is off. If G protein is binded with GTP, it becomes on. If it is binded with the GDP, it becomes off. Further continuation of G protein says that there are two types of G protein. One is known as small G protein, or it is also known as monomeric G protein, and second, that is far famous, that is trimeric, or it is also known as heterotrimeric protein. Hetero, it means different, and trimeric means three. So basically, heterotrimeric G protein are consist of three different type of smaller protein. One is alpha, second beta, and third is gamma. Beta and gamma, they are complex molecule and they are binded with each other, and alpha are able to separate if G proteins are activated. In short, we can say that usually this G protein is consisting of alpha, beta and gamma. Beta gamma is always associated, but if receptor will be activated, after activation of receptor, now G alpha part will be dissociated from receptor as well as beta gamma, and this alpha is responsible for the further transduction pathway. Beta and gamma will be remain as such present. I have shown one diagram. Through this diagram I will explain. See, initially in the diagram number 1, you can see receptors. This receptor is inactive. You can also see G protein. G protein are having alpha, beta and gamma. These two are dissociated. It means receptor is different and G protein is located on different location. But since this is located in different location, you can observe alpha is associated with the GDP. Now ligand bind to the receptor. You can see here, when ligand will bind to the receptor, there are certain type of conformational changes occurs in the receptor. Due to this conformational changes, now alpha, beta and gamma, that is complete GTP, bind to the receptors. Due to this binding, alpha becomes activated. See, the alpha is still binded with the GDP, but once alpha will be activated, the GDP will be exchanged with the GTP. Now alpha will be completely activated. Alpha is associated with the GTP. Alpha will separate from that particular segment. Now you can observe in the next diagram that beta and gamma is separate and alpha is separated. Now alpha along with the GTP, they bind to the next effector. Effector means the next enzyme which are already located on membrane. This effector is nothing, it's an adenylase cyclase. Now active G protein will bind to the adenylase cyclase. Adenylase cyclase becomes activated. The role of adenylase cyclase is shown in the next diagram. They are responsible for conversion of ATP to cyclic AMP. So overall in this all diagram, you have observed that receptor are present, G protein is present, and effector, that is adenylase cyclase, is present, but all are in the inactive stage. If ligand will bind to the G protein coupled receptor, there are certain conformational changes occurs in the receptor. Due to conformational changes, GDP will be replaced by GTP. Now G protein is completely active. This G protein are active, it means alpha becomes fully active. Alpha will dissociate from beta gamma. They will bind to the effector, that is adenylase cyclase, and finally adenylase cyclase becomes activated. Due to activity of adenylase cyclase, ATP is converted into cyclic AMP and secondary messenger cyclic AMP will be produced. Now you can see then in the next diagram that this activity should be now should be locked down, or you can say should be stopped. Why? Because cyclic MP is already produced. If the cyclic MP is produced in the continuous amount, then overexpression of cellular responses occurs, and in the particular time period the cell might have certain type of problems, like say for example, cyclic MP is responsible for glycogen metabolism, visual transduction, and so many other phenomena. So if the continuous expression of cyclic MP occurs, there might be certain type of deregulation occurs in the cell, and finally problems might be occurring, and therefore this activity should be seized down. How it seized down? See, now once alpha G alpha is binded to the receptor, now GTP is already exchanged with the GDP. It means now the trimeric protein G protein, alpha, beta, gammas, they become inactivated. But what happens with the receptor? The receptor is already binded with the G protein. Now receptor should be inactive, because if receptor is activated continuously, they will again activate the G protein. So for the inactivation of receptor, desensitization occurs. For the desensitization, now there is a G protein receptor kinase will come, and they are responsible for the phosphorylation of receptor that I have shown in the next diagram. And if receptor becomes phosphorylated, receptors are desensitized, but for that it requires arrestin. So those molecules in the cytoplasmic region of the G protein coupled receptor which are phosphorylated, these region are actually binded with the arrestin. So arrestin will bind, and finally receptor will be desensitized. I will just overall complete this diagram. See, initially there is a receptor, there is an enzyme, and in between these two there is a G protein. Now receptors are activated by binding of the ligand. Ligand will bind to receptor, receptor have changes, due to change G protein activate. G protein will leave beta gamma, and they are responsible for activation of next domain, that is adenylase cyclase. Adenylase cyclase is responsible for production of cyclic AMP. Now what is the role of cyclic AMP? I will explain later on in the same module only later on. Now after the activation of cyclic AMP, G protein is inactivated. So there is no further transduction pathway. But what is going to happen with the ligand receptor? Because ligand is still binded to the receptor. Now in the receptor, there is a phosphorylation occurs by receptor tyrosine kinase. This kinase will phosphorylate receptor, and after this phosphorylation, arrestin molecule will bind here, and they arrest binding of G protein with the receptors. It means G protein will further not able to bind to the receptor, and finally transduction pathway will be stopped. I hope you understand this. Now next, family of G protein. G protein are having certain family members. Whatever I explained here is G alpha stimulatory. Say in the G protein, beta gamma is a separate part, but the major reason which is responsible for activation is G alpha. G alpha are having 4 types. The first one, which I have already explained, which is more familiar, it is stimulatory. It means those G protein which are responsible for the stimulation of adenylase cyclase so that cyclic AMP is formed. So G alpha stimulatory will stimulate adenylase cyclase and hence stimulate cyclic AMP production. You should remember in mind, because there is a transduction pathway in which I will again explain the stimulatory. So stimulatory is for stimulation of cyclic AMP in short. Now next is GI. I is inhibitory. Inhibitory means they are G alpha, but they are having inhibitory type of activity. It means they are responsible for the decrease the expression of cyclic AMP. So basically they are just opposite of stimulatory. So we can say there are 2 G protein here. Stimulatory is responsible for cyclic AMP production, whereas GI is responsible for the decrease the amount of cyclic AMP. It means the arrest cyclic AMP production. Then third one is Q11. This Q11 is also one of the famous G protein coupled receptor, which is responsible for the activation of phospholipase C beta. They are participating IP3 and DAG pathway that I am going to explain in the transduction pathway in the coming slides. And the last one is 1213, that is G alpha 1213. It is also famous with the name of Rho family. Rho family I will again explain. It is responsible for the control of cell cytoskeletal remodeling. Now come to the third and last part of the G protein coupled receptor, that is transduction. I have shown here several explanation as well as certain type of pathway related to the G protein coupled receptor. So transduction is basically the passing of this masses from receptor, you can directly say from ligand to receptor, receptor to secondary messenger, and finally responses. So in the previous classes or previous video, I have already explained receptor, then different type of G protein as well as transduction. Here I am going to summarize everything, or I am here basically going to compile all this my talks, previous talks, in few slides only. So in this transduction pathway, basically ligand bind to receptor, there are certain type of changes occurs, G protein activated. This G protein is responsible for production of some secondary messengers such as cyclic AMP, cyclic GMP, calcium, etc. and finally transduction occurs. It means cellular responses occurs. Here I have shown three diagrams. There are three key players for the G protein coupled receptor transduction pathway. One is receptor, second is G protein, and third is enzyme, which are responsible for secondary messenger production. See here in the diagram I have shown one by one all these three. Now come to the examples of transduction pathway. There are two type of common type of pathway I am going to explain here. One is cyclic AMP signal transduction pathway, and second is phosphatidyl inositol signal pathway. See, one of the best example I have shown here is, see, when G stimulatory is activated, G stimulatory is responsible for activation of adenylase cyclase, which are converting ATP to cyclic AMP. Now cyclic AMP is responsible for activation of or production of protein kinase A, which I have already shown in my previous video. Now cyclic AMP should be deactivated. Why? The reason is protein kinase A is responsible for the cellular responses, but there should be always a regulation. No more protein kinase is required. On that time cyclic AMP should be deactivated. For the deactivation of cyclic AMP, there is an enzyme known as phosphodiesterase. All this diesterase enzyme or phosphodiesterase enzyme is responsible for the deactivation of secondary messenger. Here cyclic AMP phosphodiesterase will deactivate cyclic AMP, and hence cyclic AMP is converted into AMP and they are deactivated. Now examples has been shown in the diagram. See, the first is ligand, they will bind to the receptors. The receptor are finally certain the changes occurs in the receptor. GTP is converted, GTP will be exchanged with the GDP. Effector is activated, beta gamma is separate, alpha will be responsible for the cyclic AMP production, etc., which I have already explained, but I am shown here in the diagram. Now examples. First example is glycogen metabolism. As you know, and in the previous video also I explained, glycogen metabolism here stands for suppose your blood sugar level is controlled by glycogen metabolism. Once you are taking meal in the diet, glucose level will be increased in the blood. That glucose should be converted into glycogen and stored in the liver. That is well known. Now once you are in the fast, on that time that glycogen should be converted back into glucose. For the conversion of glycogen to glucose, there is an enzyme needed known as glycogen convertase, or it is also known as glycogen phosphorylase. So how glycogen phosphorylase will be activated? That I am going to show here in the diagram. See, protein kinase A, see, already explained in the previous slides always that cyclic AMP is activated, they activate protein kinase A. Now further transduction is related to the role of protein kinase A. Protein kinase A will be activating phosphorylase kinase. Now phosphorylase kinase becomes activated and they are responsible for the activation of glycogen phosphorylase. So try to understand, cyclic AMP is activated. Cyclic AMP is activating phosphorylase kinase. Phosphorylase kinase will activate glycogen phosphorylase, and glycogen phosphorylase will be responsible for conversion of glycogen to glucose. It means finally, indirectly, pKa, that is protein kinase A, will be responsible for conversion of glycogen to glucose whenever it is needed. But exactly at the same time, whatever remaining glucose are present, this glucose should not be converted into glycogen, and for that one enzyme known as glycogen synthase, it should be inactivated. And for the inactivation of glycogen synthase, the pKa, that is protein kinase A, directly play important role, and they are responsible for inhibitory phosphorylation. Second example I have shown here is toxins. There are two famous toxins. One is cholera and second is pertussis. These questions are usually asked in the CSIR examination, so I have separately put it here. For this understanding the role of bacterial toxin, see, in the first diagram I have already explained. In the diagram I have shown that You know very well that G alpha will be active only once it will bind to the GTP. In the first diagram you can see G alpha, beta and gamma, they are binded with the GDP, so it is inactive. In the second one you can see now GDP is replaced by GTP. It means GS alpha is now binded with the GTP. It is already shown in the previous slides also. Now normally what is going to happen, this G alpha will work, and after working this G alpha which is binded with the GTP should be now bind with the GDP. It means GTP instead of GTP it should be binded with the GDP. So the activity is, this is the normal activity, that GDP to GTP and GTP to GDP, it's a on off conversion occurs. But if cholera toxin, somehow cholera toxin will be entered into our body, as you know, when bacteria will attack inside the body they produce cholera, and this cholera toxin is responsible for ADP ribosylation. This ADP ribosylation, it means this ADP ribosyl group will be attached to the GS alpha, and finally this GS alpha is not going to release GTP. It means the persistent activity of adenylase cyclase occurs. In short, we can say that now GTP is not going to leave GS alpha. GS alpha is permanently or persistently active because this GS alpha is continuously binded with the GTP. Now what is going to happen, you can think, if GS alpha will be continuously active, it means they are continuously responsible for cyclic AMP production. So level of cyclic AMP is increased, and finally deregulation occurs in the body. So basically cholera toxin is responsible for the ADP ribosylation, and due to ADP ribosylation GS alpha will be continuously activated. The second example is pertussis toxin. Pertussis toxin are playing similar role, but their binding site is different. Pertussis toxin will affect on GI, that is G inhibitory. As I already told you that G inhibitory is inhibitory in function, it means GI, the role of GI is they are responsible for the decrease the level of cyclic AMP. It means if cyclic AMP is not required, GI should decrease the level of cyclic AMP. But due to pertussis toxin, ADP ribosylation again occurs, and due to ADP ribosylation GI becomes inactivated. Due to inactivation of GI, they are now no more going to bind to inhibition of adenylase cyclase. It means, what I want to say, the role of GI is to decrease the cyclic AMP. Now if GI is not working due to ADP ribosylation, they are not able to inactivate the enzyme, and hence cyclic AMP level will be increased. So the concluding remark is, in the cholera toxin they work on GS alpha, the pertussis toxin work on GI alpha. These two are different, but finally both are responsible for the increased level of cyclic AMP. These questions you should always remember, these are most important questions and usually asked in certain type of examinations. Next is GPCR, role of GPCR in photoreception. See, we are able to see in the light and adjust our eyes in the dark. So there is an adjustment between dark and light. If there is a dark period, on that time in the dark, cyclic GMP level will be increased, and this cyclic GMP is responsible for the maintenance of body in the dark condition. Once light will be there, suddenly light will be perceived. Light is received by our rhodopsin receptor. Rhodopsin, which is present in the eye, once rhodopsin will receive light, they are responsible for the balancing, or they are responsible for the visualization activity. How it is going to occur? It's a simple mechanism. In the dark, cyclic GMP is active. In the light, cyclic GMP becomes deactivated. How? You can see in the diagram. As I already told you that rhodopsin is a G protein coupled receptors, and this is activated by light. It's a trimeric G protein. So basically trimeric G protein I have already explained. It is also known as transducin or GT, T for transducin. So here I am not using the word GS or GI, I am using the word GT because they are transducin. See here, what is going to happen when light will be received by the receptors? Receptor have certain type of changes occurs as usual. Due to this change, these receptors are activated G protein as usual. G protein is responsible. Now the twist is G protein is now here activating, they are activating phosphodiesterase. Initially phosphodiesterase was inactive, but G protein is responsible for activation of phosphodiesterase. As I explained in the cyclic AMP that phosphodiesterase is responsible for the inhibition of activity of secondary messenger. Here phosphodiesterase is responsible for the conversion of cyclic GMP to GMP. The only difference between these two is, in case of cyclic AMP, I use the term cyclic AMP phosphodiesterase. Here I should use the term cyclic GMP phosphodiesterase. But the role is same. Phosphodiesterase is responsible for conversion of cyclic GMP to GMP. Now in the diagram, you can see cyclic GMP is converted into GMP, which is inactive form. Next, in this diagram, you can see what is going to happen in the adjustment of dark to light. First, I will explain dark. In the dark, G protein is active. Due to this G protein, sodium ion channel becomes activated, and so since sodium ion channel will be open, sodium is entered inside the cell, and due to this sodium ion channel, membrane potential is minus 30 millivolt, and due to this membrane changes of potentials, now glutamate is released, and they are responsible for the balancing of our visualization or body. Now what is going to happen in the case of light? If I am talking regarding the light, due to light, see in the last slide I have shown you, due to light phosphodiesterase becomes activated, and this phosphodiesterase is responsible for the conversion of cyclic GMP to GMP. Now cyclic GMP is converted to GMP, it means no more cyclic GMP is there. Due to absence of cyclic GMP, sodium ion channel will be closed, and due to this closing, glutamate release will be stopped, and this is how in the light we are going to stabilize and we are going to visualize. And the last pathway which you have to understand is phosphatidyl inositol pathway, signaling pathway. This is also I have already explained, but still I am going to revise here. In this pathway, as it is shown here, at first this is also known as PLC beta. Here hormone will bind to receptor. This receptor are having certain type of changes. G protein will activate it, and this G protein is responsible for the activation of phospholipase C enzyme. This PLC phospholipase C enzyme is responsible for conversion of PIP2 to, or you can say either conversion or breakdown. This PIP2 is converted into IP3 and DAG, where IP3, which is also known as inositol triphosphate, and DAG is considered as diethylglycerol. What is going to happen with the IP3 and DAG, that I will explain in this diagram. You can see the diagram. Initially G protein coupled receptor activate, G protein is activated, they activate phospholipase C, PLC will break down this PIP2 into IP3 and DAG. Now DAG is membrane associated, so DAG will be remain present on the membrane or located on membrane, whereas this IP3, which is present in the intracellular region, they will bind to the calcium ion channel located on ER. In short, I can say once IP3 and DAG is present, DAG is still located on membrane, IP3 will be free. IP3 is acting as a transmitter, or you can say it is acting as a signal molecule. They will come to the endoplasmic reticulum, bind to ER. In the ER there is a calcium ion channel. This calcium ion channel is closed, so calcium is present in ER. Normally calcium ion is balanced in the cell because calcium ion is located inside the endoplasmic reticulum, and this is how it is regulated. But if calcium ion need to be removed, the channel should be open. The opening of calcium ion channel is directly regulated by IP3. So IP3 will open the channel, calcium ion will be released. Now calcium ion plus DAG, which is present located on the membrane, they are responsible for the activation of protein kinase C. In the previous talk also I told you that protein kinase A, which is activated by cyclic AMP, protein kinase G, which is activated by cyclic GMP, protein kinase C I have explained here, which is activated by calcium ion. So these three common type of kinase will be activated and cellular responses occurs. Now the last one related to the same pathway is, what is the role of calcium? See, calcium as such I told you that they are responsible for the activation of protein kinase C. calcium is playing very important role. It is not just activating protein kinase C, it is also activating calmodulin kinase, or it is also known as CAM kinase. In the CAM kinase there is a family, CAM kinase 2 is very famous. See what is going to happen. There are three players here. One is calcium ion, second is calmodulin, and third is CAM kinase. These all are inactive. It means CAM kinase is inactive. Calcium ion is located in the endoplasmic reticulum. Obviously, they are not able to work, and calmodulin is also inactive in the cytoplasm. Now, what is going to happen? See, I will start from the first. Ligand bind to receptor. Certain type of changes occurs. PLC activated. They break PIP2. PIP2 is converted into IP3 and DAG. Now, among these two, DAG is still located on membrane. IP3 bind on ER. ER channel will be open. Calcium ion released. Now, calcium ion will be responsible for the PKC, that is different matter, but individually this calcium ion is also able to bind to calmodulin. Calmodulin is a basically calcium ion binding receptors. It means calmodulin is a receptor which is bind to the calcium ion. Now, calmodulin and calcium is binded. Now, calmodulin will be active. They will always active with calcium will be bind. Now, this calmodulin along with the calcium ion are responsible for the activation of kinase known as CAM kinase, all calmodulin kinase, right? This CAM kinase is having certain type of cellular functions which I have already explained in the previous video. And finally, if it need to be deactivated, there is a simple mechanism. Now, calcium will be removed from the calmodulin. It will enter into endoplasmic reticulum. If calcium is not present, calmodulin will be deactivated and CAM kinase is also deactivated. This is how all this transduction mechanism occurs. In short, in previous 5 modules, I explained about the receptors and transduction pathway. So, see, in the concluding session, I can say that it's a very simple mechanism. There are different type of receptors. Receptor is always binding to the ligand. Secondary messengers becomes activated. These secondary messengers activate different kinases. These kinases play two type of role. Either they are responsible for the gene expression, or they are responsible for the activation of protein which is present in the cytoplasm, and you can understand all this mechanism by visualizing all these slides. So you can go through the 5 different modules and you will easily understand what are the different type of signal transduction pathway. With this session, I am going to conclude signal transduction pathway. Thank you.